Okay, this Pesach is very special because this year, which is good for us, so you won't be so tired by the Seder, because Erev Pesach is on Shabbos. Right? So now everybody wants to know, when are you by the Chumetz? Because always the night before Shabbos. The night before Pesach, you walk around with a candle and you look for Chumetz. And it's a must, right? So when do you do that? So this year, with Hashem, we are doing it Thursday night, the night before Shabbos. Because B'dikas Chumetz has to be at night. You know, we always think that daylight is the strongest light. It's not really true. How you doing, brother? Daylight is not really the strongest light, I think Mo says. The strongest light in the world is a candle. Because Neh Hashem Nishmas Odom, God's light is the human soul. That means this is... So we walk on as a candle. So we do this, whatever we do always on Erev Pesach night, we do it Thursday night. And Mamish, before Shabbos, Mamish, you put away all the Chumetz. They're burning it. The only difference is that always on Erev Pesach you have to burn the Chumetz by 9 in the morning, by 10. Here you have time all Friday. But one way or the other, before Shabbos, you're burning the Chumetz. It's Mamish the same thing. You say Kol Chamir, we'll learn this in a second. The only thing is, you're leaving for yourself somewhere in a corner, just enough for 2 meals, for Friday night and Shabbos morning. And the craziest thing is, you cannot really have Shalashudas so much on Erev Pesach and it's Shabbos, because you really shouldn't have a meal after midday, because you're supposed to eat matzah when you're hungry. It means you cannot have a meal after, even if it's Shabbos. So by the big rabbis, like in Bobov, let's say they daven at 6 in the morning, and they eat one feast, right? They bench and pull around a little bit, and then they eat another feast in order to have Shalashudas. So it's up to you, folks, if you want to wake up 5 in the morning. You see what it is. The truth is that you can also fulfill Shalashudas with all kinds of, you can eat apples, or you can actually also have a little piece of cake, but you're not permitted to wash after midday. So he says you can do Shalashudas, or you can eat chicken, you can eat meat, if you don't wash, or that's it. But anyway, it says you should really burn the Chumetz on that Friday, Erev Pesach, before midday also. Only in emergency, if you didn't, you can burn it all day. You do it before midday.
For 3 or 4 hours?
On Friday, before 12. And but the craziest thing is, Kol Chamir, you know, to annihilate the Chumetz, you only do on Shabbos morning. Come to it in a second. Okay, it says Shabbos after the feast, after you finish eating the first meal, then Mamish, we'll come to it in a second. After you eat Shabbos morning, and again, you have to eat early, because you have to wash, because you have to make hamatzah. And until what time are you permitted to eat on approximately 9:30, 9:15?
Can we use the grass sheet on Shabbos morning?
Mm-hmm.
The grass sheet is later.
So make it later, who cares, you know?
Shabbos.
Whatever's for you, brother. Brother.
Holy brother.
Brother. Okay, the time is up to you, but we're talking about the... So you have to... Okay, you know, what do you do usually when you finish eating? Then you leave on Shabbos, you leave the tablecloth on, because on Shabbos, but not on this Shabbos, your mamish take it off, because might be chometz on it. And the best thing is, if you can have a plastic thing in mamish, get rid of the whole thing, because you never know where a little crumb is hanging in. And whatever you have mamish put away, and if there's mamish bread left, then give it to a non-Jew. Put it out. And if there's nobody there, then just throw it in the toilet and flush it. Because you're not permitted to carry it out from your house, because you're not permitted to carry on Shabbos. What happens if you forgot to sell your chometz on Erev Shabbos? That's it. Then, but you see, you are permitted to give a gift on Shabbos. So I call in the superintendent, I say, listen, I'm giving you all I have as a gift.
Shlomo, I think there's a problem with that. I asked this last time. You can only give a gift on Shabbos of something that you can use on Shabbos, right?
Why?
Just a halacha.
Well, what do you mean you cannot use it? I'm giving you a piece of bread. It's not muktzah.
You're giving it to a goy, you're not giving it to a Jew.
Yeah.
The Jew can't eat it.
They're talking about when it's still time. I'm not giving it to the goy after it's already osir. If I sell the chometz after it's osir, then it's a joke. It's not even my possession anymore. See, that's the whole thing. You have to sell the chometz while you are still the owner of it. Because after 10 o'clock on Erev Pesach, when I'm not permitted to eat it, I'm not the owner. This is why I want you to know something very deep. Anything which I cannot use, not only I cannot use it, I'm not the owner. I'm not the owner. I'll tell you something really way out. This is mamash way out. Imagine, let's assume that, how can I make it very, very strong? Let's assume that there was something which I'm really not permitted to eat, not even permitted to use. You know, maybe kilaim or anything. You know, if anything, if you put two kinds of seeds together and it's growing, you're not permitted. And if it's growing, you're not permitted to use it, right? But then, it should never happen. I meet this woman. She is sick, and because she's sick, she is permitted to eat anything, right? So can I be Mekadisher with that? Because I cannot use it, right? But she can use it, right? Or am I so much not the owner that it's not even considered that I gave it to her? Or is it enough that it's very deep? You know, the question is, how much am I disconnected from anything which I'm not permitted to use? Is it like non-existent for me? Or is it just that I'm not permitted to use it, but if I help somebody else to use it, that makes me enough of an owner that it's called that I gave her something. You know, when you marry a woman, you have to give her something. Hey, what's happening here? You sure you're in the right place? How you doing, darling? All day pour my crowd for you. This is what you have. You know, you're not permitted to do business on Shabbos, obviously. But not to do business on Shabbos is not really a melacha, it's an Issa Shavuos, right? You're not permitted to have chumetz on Pesach is mamash the end, right? So, in emergency, super emergency, you call in the non-Jew and he says, I want to buy it from you, right? but you're not permitted to touch money, right? So you tell them, just put it here in my closet, give me $1 for it, or you can sell it in a different way, you give them the key to the whole room, wherever you have chometz. He says something unbelievable. Okay, you know what we usually do? Like after we eat on this table chometz, right? So we, mamash before 9, whatever, 9:15 or 10, we have time from not eating till not having it in my possession. It's also another hour about. Okay, so I'm taking off the chometz from the table. And then, are you ready for the Seder, right? So I put the table in the right space and do everything for tonight. You're not permitted to do this, because you're not permitted to prepare from Shabbos to Yom Tov, right? So you gotta have, leave the table the way it is, or before Shabbos, put the table already in that place where you need it for the Seder, and you just take off the tablecloth. What else is very important? Okay, now listen, you're not permitted to eat chometz after about whenever it is. You have to look it up, 9:10, 9:15 or 9:20, whatever it is. But you can still have it in your possession for another hour. But you have to sell the chometz or get it out of your possession. Okay, now we're going back to Friday. Friday, approximately before midday, because it's not really a Pesach, it has to be exactly between 10 and 11, but about before midday, you burn the chometz, and you just keep in your possession exactly what you need for Friday night and Shabbos morning. And this is what you have to say. You have to, okay, before you burn it, I'm just translating it, I'm sure. Because everybody knows that when we are burning the chometz, let's put it this way. What is bread all about? Bread is basically just water and flour, right? The chometz, how do you call it in good English? What's chometz?
Leaven.
Yeast?
Not the yeast. The way it looks now, it's blown up, right?
Right.
How do you say that?
The risen,
It
risen bread?
Yes.
The risen bread, right?
3 times.
Is the outside of the bread, because the inside is just flour and water. So what we're doing on Pesach is get rid of everything outside. Just the inside. You know what it is? We are slaves to the outside, We are slaves to the outside world. Everything is outside. Everything we do is outside, right? So this is Mamash so deep. So I said, the way I burn the chometz, please let me burn out and wipe out all the outside and the impurity from the world. This is so deep. I don't know what some people think. What is pure, impure? We'll talk about it on Shabbos. What pure is that I'm open to the inside. My heart is open, right? To the inside of the inside. Impure person is someone who's completely closed up. Inside stuff they can't take. Only outside, right? Take the world, The more outside it is, the more they're interested, right? It's crazy, right? Shabbos. And then it says one more thing, sadly enough, I don't know so much about medicine. Where's Josh?
Here.
Oh, holy Josh. Is it possible that certain food can make my heart completely insensitive and anything, just make a stone out of it? Physically?
When you refer to heart, you're referring to it as the seed of the
Inside,
emotion, so
Is
that
it possible?
different foods can affect the
Okay, so he says, I say, Rabbi Shlomo, the chometz made my heart into stone. I don't feel anything anymore. So, Master of the world, can you take out my heart of stone and give me a heart of flesh, soft? This is so deep, What was so special about all the big rabbis, I have to tell you an unbelievable story. I heard it from Rabbi Shlomo in Denver a long time ago. His Seide, the Heilige von der Stapler, had some kind of I don't know what this is. Josh knows more. Is there such a thing when someone hiccups and you can't stop, that you shock the spine or something? Yeah. Okay, so he had the hiccups and stuff. They took him to this doctor in Leningrad, and this is already 150 years ago, right?
Kiev.
Well, in Kiev?
Yeah.
It was in Kiev. Okay. And the thing is that you put a needle, an iron, mamish, red from fire, put it in the spine, and the shock stops the hiccups. So the rabbi says, the doctor says, take off your shirt. And then he says, we need Cossacks to hold you, because the pain for 1 second is so unbearable. The rabbi says, no, you don't need Cossacks. So the crazy thing is, he puts the needle in the spine, and the rabbi wasn't shocked. So he says to the rabbi's son in Russian, he says, is your father a human being or is he an angel? He said, what you know, I just did this to a Cossack, Russian, a Cossack officer, strong like a lion. And he jumped out of the window because he couldn't bear the pain. So the rabbi says to his son, what's he saying? So he says that the doctor says you're not a human being, that you hold out the pain. So the rabbi says to his son, tell the doctor, when people come and pour out their hearts, all their problems, it hurts me more. You see, we are... The deepest question is not when someone steps on your toes, how do you feel? The question is, when someone steps on somebody else's toe, how do you feel, right? And, something very deep. The Korban Pesach, the Paschal Lamb, is v'lo kachu shchena, you and your neighbor. You know what it is? The more you are a slave, the less you care for somebody else. You see, the world thinks a slave is somebody, I don't have my own business. This is outside stuff. Inside slave is somebody who is so closed up from the world. He only knows when he is hungry, when she is hungry. So Pesach night, the first thing is V'lo shchena. The Paschal lamb, because you only eat a little piece of it, and you have to eat the whole lamb. And you're not permitted to leave anything for the next morning, right? So you have to take like all your neighbors, right? It was Gewalt. And it was awesome Seder night in the Beis HaMikdash. All night long they were bringing the Paschal lamb, and in the Beis HaMikdash, and they would eat it on top, on the roof of the houses in Yerushalayim. And the singing was like not to be believed. Just want to put this in. If you remember that Sancheriv was a Napoleon at that time, in the time of Chizkiyahu Melech. He conquered the whole Middle East. There's only one city he couldn't conquer, Yerushalayim. And you have to know one more thing, Yerushalayim was not like today. Modin was like the outskirts of Yerushalayim, right where the high priest lived. That means Yerushalayim was huge, right? And some people maybe think that the old city is broken down house. That's how it was. It was the most beautiful buildings because the richest Jews lived there, The Gemara says what kind of riches they had, Dima Ben Gur, this awesome, right? Like now Dima Ben Gurion's daughter would not walk on the street unless the servants would pull out a carpet for her. She had never put her foot on the street, only with a carpet. Never. You remember the stories? Rabbi Yochanan, after the destruction of the temple, Nebuch, he saw her on the street. And there she was looking in the garbage pail for food. Yochanan was crying. Anyway, listen to this. Where was I now? So they would eat on the roof. Okay, so Sancheriv comes and he wants to conquer Yerushalayim. And, they tell him, you have to come. He can't understand. The soldiers are surrounding Yerushalayim for 3 years and they can't conquer it. So anyway, so he's coming, coming from the hills, Sancheriv, from Syria, the great king. He looks down. Basically, it's a cute city. It's not New York, right? It's not Chicago. And Chizkiyahu Melech gave orders. We are not strong enough to fight him physically. He has a huge army. So God has to do it anyway. So we don't have to do anything. So he says, we just keep on doing our thing. He came Erev Pesach. And he looks down and he thought, everybody is running around with weapons to prepare himself for the attack. This Yidden running around in Chometz. Yidden was preparing to bring the Paschal lamb. Can't believe it. And then, it's dark, it's sunset. Yidden come to Beis HaMikdash. You have to realize there were millions of Jews in those days. And everybody was a partner in a lamb, and everybody got just one little kazais, right? So it could be maybe, I don't know how many people can eat a kazai from Pesach, a few hundred people, right, always together, right? And then on the roof, he hears singing. You can't believe it. So it was clear to him that they are just doing it to fool him. That means they are coming from the back, on the front they sit and they sing. And from the back, they're coming too. And suddenly one says, yeah, I saw the Jews coming. And suddenly there was panic and they took off. The whole army took off. Chizkiyahu Melech. And the Gemara says Chizkiyahu was supposed to be the Messiah. You know what the Messiah is? I trust God so much. We trust God, but we also want to do something in case He doesn't. Right? little bit, right? To give him a little push or to give him a little hint. Pirkei says, mamish. Oy tayom b'not lama, right? See, Pesach is, we didn't do anything for the redemption of Egypt. And you know how deep this is? Why didn't Pharaoh listen to Moshe? Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Because if Pharaoh would have listened, there would have been a little bit like, was a little bit, negotiation, and Moshe and Pharaoh, they made a deal, like, no deals. Pharaoh doesn't want them to go. God says, I take you out. That night is an awesome night. It's an awesome night. Okay, we go back to the Rabbi Shlomo. You see, when Mashiach is coming, what will happen to the world is that God will take out the stones from our hearts. The world always talks about kidney stones, but they don't talk about stones in the heart, the valves. This is the way the Mashiach stuff, Change your heart. Gewalt, then Rabbi Shlomo, take away the kingdom of evil from the world. Gewalt, still strong. And all the enemies of God, rest of the world, really wipe them out. In the same way you wiped out Egypt and their gods. Okay, this is what you say before you burn the chumetz. Then after you burn the chumetz, you say every chumetz, whatever it is, which is in my possession, which I saw, which I didn't see, which I wiped out or didn't wipe out. Let it be, how do you say the word in English? Non-existent.
No.
Nullified. And let it be, hefker means I take away my ownership. And for me, it's like dust. You know what it is? Takes a lot of pride, takes a lot of strength to say that the whole world, the whole, let's say, not such good world, Shabbos, no. I don't want to say anything bad, but just what's going on in the world, what's going on in Israel. We make the other side so big, right? We make the other side so big, like they existed. What are you afraid of, right? And I don't know why, I just remembered the story. It's a good story. Don't know if I told it to you, but anyway, may not connect, but it does connect. You would say the Russian Tsar, right, is a strong entity, right? I mean, I'd say, I believe in God. God's also very, very strong. But Gewalt, you have to admit, the Russian Tsar is not something to deal with, right? Anyway, here's the story. In all the Lubavitcher Chassid, somewhere in Siberia, there was going into a Krishna, and suddenly he sees a general, real top general, getting up, comes over to him, and he says to him, I guess you're Jewish, yeah. He says, have you ever seen God? What a question, right? So here I have to interrupt the story and tell you the story. The Russian government, I don't know if you know this, it's old classic stuff. How you dead? Peace. The story is that the Russian Tsar sent a telegram or a letter to the German Kaiser. He says, if you would wipe out your Jews, I'll have an excuse to wipe out my Jews. Let's do it together. Because public relations doesn't look nice. If only Russia wipes them out, or only Germany. But if they both do it simultaneously, it'll be a Gewalt, right? Joint effort. So the German Kaiser wrote back to him, my dearest friend, you understand the depth of my feelings? I told you about the moo. This 2 cows are standing on grass, and suddenly a big ox comes. So one cow says, moo. So the other cow says, you took the words right out of my mouth. Anyway, so the Russian Tsar sends back to him, brother, you took the words out of my mouth, and I'm so proud of you. The only thing is, right now I cannot politically afford it, but if you can do it, I bless you. I mean, a blessing from the German Kaiser, it's worth $5, right? $4.99. Anyway, so the Russian Tsar had a gewalt idea. It's below his dignity, it doesn't look nice, he'll kill the Jews, right? It doesn't look nice. So he had a gewalt idea. Most Jews in those days lived in little villages. For a Jew to live in a big city needs very special permits, and they drag your soul out till they give it to you. So suddenly he made a new law that Jews are not permitted to live in little villages. And besides, most parnassah of Yidden was kretschmas on the highway. That's where they were living, because they were not permitted to do anything, just to sell whiskey, right? So here's gewalt idea. If I tell all the Jews have to leave their little villages, right? So they go to the big city. But in the big city, they need a permit. And then, without anybody knowing, I'm giving notice to the big cities, don't give any new permits to a Jew. So I have already 90% of Jews dying on the highway. They're driven out from the little villages, and in the big villages they can't come. And it's a gewalt, right? You see, it's even much more advanced than Eichmann, because Eichmann, Germany, which is really heartbreaking, had to spend so much money on the gas. And the Tsar wanted to make it much cheaper, right? Terrible, right? In Russia, there's a law that if the Russian Tsar comes out with a decree, and one time he was against it, then he cannot renew it again. Okay, the Russian Tsar is supposed to come in exactly 12 to sign the decree, and it'll go in effect. The Tsar was always on time. For the first time, the Tsar walked in 10 minutes to 12. The Tsar walked in 10 minutes to 12 and said, where's the decree? It was in the winter. Takes the decree and throws it in the fire. Okay, so he takes the decree, throws it in the fire, and walks out. Exactly 12, the Tsar comes. He says, where's the decree? Well, he said, you were just here. He said, what do you mean I was here? I'm here right now. He said, no, Mamish, you were here. We have witnesses, we're over here. Wow. Mamish, you know we came? Looking like the Tsar, and he threw it in the fire, right? So, according to our classic tradition, the Tsar, Mamish said, God of Israel. God of Israel. So this general said to this Lubavitcher Chassid, I want you to know, I am the one, I was 18 years old, and I was guard in the palace, and I am the one who opened the door for the first Tsar. Unbelievable. He's already another, right? So he says, I saw God. Did you? Unbelievable. This is awesome, you know. So you see what it is? Yeah. Basically, you know, the more it's clear to us, that nobody is the master of the world. We're making them big, you know. Okay, before Pesach, I absolutely gotta go, brother, yeah? Thank you, man, thank you. And mamish, you know, in my world, it has to be for real, in my world, only God exists. Nobody has power in the world. Want you to know something awesome? I don't know if it was the Holy Sanzer or one of the Chernobyl. There was a pogrom. And again, I don't know if it was the Sanzer or one of the Chernobyl rebels. And suddenly, and everybody ran off. Chas v'shalom. In the meantime, I don't know if it was the Holy Sanzer again. He didn't run off. He said to the Chassidim, you're afraid? Then I hide behind me in the room. And the Rebbe was sitting and learning. And here this Cossack comes in with a gun, standing there. The Rebbe keeps on learning. Then suddenly he looks up, he says, Mr. Cossack, what can I do for you? He says, Rebbe, I just want you to tell me one thing. I'm shooting people all day. Why can't I shoot you? My trigger doesn't work. And he says, you know why? Because I'm absolutely not afraid of you. Not afraid of you. I want you to know something that I told you the story about 2 million times. I want to chew it over again. You know, so long I'm still was giving you this part. In Vienna was a boy, his name was Matis Gelman. I don't know if you remember. He was like, don't do it. You know, there was 2 undergrounds. There was one underground to fight the Nazis, then there was another underground to ignore them. Don't exist. They have no dominion over me. So Matis Gelman had organized yeshivas underground. People were sitting and learning. And they promised each other if they're ever caught, they'd do anything they want to run off. They'd jump out of trains, run back. And imagine, someone was caught and sent to Auschwitz, he jumps out from the train, next morning he's back to yeshiva. Nothing happened. Right there. And you know where they had the yeshivas not to be believed? One of the yeshivas was right under the office of the Nazis. Because they're not going to look for yeshiva under their office, right? And I'm in Matis, you know. One night, it was Fas Emes, he was a big Ger Chosed. Fas Emes Yortzeit says, we need some l'chaim. And I mean, I don't know, this courage. They were under the Nazi office, and he knew where they keep their whiskey. He walked in there, got up the whiskey and said, and someone said that, you know, yeah, it's not so simple. Everything was secret, right? He found out where they are, and the mamish were starving because where did they have food? They were learning day and night. He comes to down there in the yeshiva Matis Gelman, and he says he was outside, and he was sure Matis Gelman looks downhearted, broken, hungry. Mamash walks in, 400 people are learning, fire, and they're glowing with joy. The outside world didn't exist. And if you remember, finally they were caught because the Germans had hung out 100,000 German mark if someone finds them. Anyway, they were found. It's a long story. They shot them, and one survivor told the story that after they were shot, this German general says, we can murder them, but we can't kill them. Because a nation who has young people like this is here forever. See, Matis had yeshivas in Warsaw and in Krakow. He was caught in Krakow. Those headquarters were Warsaw. And you know that you were not permitted to make weddings? Matis had the biggest wedding in the forest, somewhere in Poland. There were 2,000 people at the wedding. And they had guards all over the forest to let them know that somebody's coming. The simcha was to have. Okay, you know, to be mamash free from the world and not to feel enslaved to anything in the world. You see what it is? Why is Pesach before Shavuos? Wouldn't it be beautiful? God gives us the Torah in Egypt, and then we walk out of Egypt. As long as you're a slave, you cannot receive the Torah. I can receive laws, but not the Torah. You know, the heavenliness of the Torah. Torah mamash. The freedom of the Torah, the depths. Okay, after you say this and you say, Master of the world, my God and God of my fathers, Master of the world, from now on I'm begging you. Give me the strength not to fall into the hands of Chomets again, not to become an outside person. Me and the people in my house and all of Israel, this year and all the years to come. And in the same way, we wiped out Chomets from our house. Let me have the privilege to wipe out evil from the world. And I should cleave to the Torah and to fear you and to love you, me and my children and my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, from now and forever. Amen. Sorry, what? There's a tefillah you say after you burn the Chomets. I'm sorry, what? This is from a Sefer Avodas HaKodesh. You know, there was a big Kabbalist in Israel about only 300 years ago, the Chidor. And he wrote prayers, like to a lot of things, you know? It means you don't have to say it if you don't want to. Like, you remember when ever comes with Tashlech, and after we say Tashlech, I'm reading a little bit from his prayers. It's all from the Heilige Chidor, yeah. I'm sorry, what? Chaim Yosef David Azulai. You know, there's a big Sephardic family, Azulai. Yeah. Here noch 3 years ago, I get a call from someone, and they said we are Chilonim, and we don't make bar mitzvahs, but we have only a feast. But she says, my son, the bar mitzvah boy, someone heard about you, he wants you to come to the feast. They're going there, it's an Enigel from Heiligen Chidor, Azulai. And you know what's the saddest thing, the word is? He never heard who he was. It was so special, you know. What do we know, right? So all those people, you know, bar mitzvahs in Israel, I have to fight my way through. They should listen to when I'm singing, you know, they sing, they're chewing, you're talking. I say, friends, you know, please, it just can't be all you eat or we sing, right? So they gave me a chance, a few minutes, I was quiet. But then I saw that's the most they can hold out for 12 minutes. Okay, so we danced a little bit. You know, there are two songs they know of me, Va'erenenu and Am Yisrael Chai. Okay, we sing this for 2 years. We dance a little bit, and then you can feel my whole head, man. Okay, then I was there with the whole chai. We walk out, and here comes the best part. The bar mitzvah boy and all his classmates were waiting for me outside. And the bar mitzvah boy said, you know, I'm so sorry that my parents never told me where I'm coming from. And we were sitting there for a few hours telling them stories. They were just taking it in so much. Unbelievable. Sorry, what?
See you again.
Here comes the end of the story. This, and I'll tell you, this year Hanukkah, I gave a concert somewhere, and this was already maybe 7, 8 years ago. I don't remember. A woman comes up to me and she says, Shmi Azulaya Tadachoti. So you were the mother of the bar mitzvah, you know. So she said, the mama still remember me, and she is coming tonight to my concert with the bar mitzvah boy. No, he's still... But anyway, I don't know if she came now. She didn't show up. She didn't say hello to me, so maybe she did. Anyway. You never know, right? You never know when people show up. Folks, I have to make an intermission for 5 minutes because I have to call up Boston, and we are learning in 7 minutes. What?
Tell the Chevra that most of you know about my book. It's now available in paperback, so maybe some people who weren't able to get it when it was very expensive. It's still very expensive, but it's less. And I just had published, this is if you want to become like Shlomo. It takes this much work. If you work for a couple of years, you'll do it. And this is about, just published, about Hillel. This was the prototype for Shlomo.
Brother, prototype for you, you're the highest.
Not bad.
I want you to know, you're all mamash proud of Yitzchak. You know, he's mamash the only one who's really doing it. Everybody talks and chechts, and mamash coming up with his books.
There should be 100 books of yours on the shelf, Shlomo.
Oh,
I tell Shlomo every time, shouldn't there be 100 books of Shlomo on the shelf?
Thousands.
Right. And I tell him every time that I want to do it and transcribe the tapes, and I can't get him to go along with it.
No, I tell
Yes,
you,
it is.
Yitzchak. See, the problem is that Yeshua and Amun are doing it for so many years. And I don't know what to do. You know, they're a little bit schleppers, you know, but I can't take it out of their hands. Ask Josh and right?
No,
I can't take it
It's
away.
right and it's not right, because the truth is there's so much material.
Of
Yeah.
course.
They can do their 20 books and he can do another 30 books and there still wouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no harm for his.
Turn the whole world on.
So we have to organize this. Okay, now that
How
Josh,
many books do we have on the Torah? There are a few million.
Josh is my rabbi.
It's enough.
Josh says so. Okay, they give me a little time. I'll organize. Ask Yeshua, what do you really have, and what don't you have? So all the material you didn't do, I'll give to you gladly.
I told Shlomo, I'll put out a book a year.
I know. You see what it
A
is.
book a year. At least.
Let me tell you, Yeshua has mamash nopenos, right? He's so sensitive, and I say to him, you know, there is somebody who, you know Yeshua better, right? He's like, and the Mona, you know, I said, no, mamash.
We're dear friends, and I also have one.
What?
We make a good team. But we're dear friends.
So maybe
Love
you,
Yeshua.
or maybe you talk to him. Maybe that didn't come from you. Okay, we'll organize it. Now we are throwing out all the chomets, right? We're throwing out all the evil spirits. Okay, folks, give me 5 minutes to the office to pay. He meant pennies. Not to be believed. The chutzpah of a millionaire, 18 times 18 pennies. But then was one other, he also multi-billionaire. In my father's time, he came and he donated $1 for all of Israel. But now the dollar echa b'shvil kol Am Yisrael.
But
So-
he only paid his part, huh?
Yeah. So one year came up to me, he says, how much does it come out for me? Well, I tell you, on the joke side, he got married for the second time or the third, I don't know. Anyway, so then his new wife was sitting next to my mother, and she doesn't read Hebrew and she doesn't believe in anything. So she kept on talking to my mother. My mother was davening and she was talking. This is one of the Yom Kippur stories she told. Her husband told her before he gets married that every night before he goes to sleep, he must have tea. So she said she got married. 4 weeks later, in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, he wakes her up. He says, you know, I forgot to drink tea. So he made her get up in the middle of the night, and she made him tea, then he went back to sleep. Can you imagine the holiness of this heat? Never. He's already up there drinking tea. I don't know where in heaven or in hell. I have to do some checkout. Come, I'll be back in 1 minute. Don't run away, brothers. You know what it is when we are slaves in Egypt, when we just, hey, Amy, what's happening? How did you sneak in?
We snuck it together.
Yeah. Oh, you're so cute, darling.
The youngest student of the yeshiva we have.
That's the king. Does everybody know that Amy is a great-great-great-granddaughter of Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev? Ha ha ha.
Wow.
What would any of us give to be related to Rabbi Yitzchak, right? It's not in our hands.
Unbelievable.
Just to make it very fast. It's not always, but there is something to it, you know? You know, by the Seder, Mamash was sitting together, right? Something special. How would it sound to you if someone says, you know, I like very much being alone, so I didn't invite anybody. In fact, I left my family and I went to Bermuda and had my own little Seder. How does it sound to you? What?
It's not too sociable.
Yeah. Brother Joe, you're the highest you alive. Something wrong, right? What's the difference between saying Shabbos I want to take off, everybody goes on my nerves, so you're going to Bermuda for Shabbos? Does it sound so bad also? No. Okay, you know, you could do it on Thursday, but anyway. But Pesach, why not? Pesach, something else. You know, when God took us out from Egypt, hi Tony. When God took us out of Egypt, you know what happened? The Gemara says, we were mamish, you know, Egypt, we not only physically we were slaves to Egypt, spiritually, mentally, we were mamish slaves to them. What's an assimilated Jew? An assimilated Jew is not somebody who eats a hamburger on Yom Kippur. An assimilated Jew is somebody who is a slave to Western culture. No. Slave to Western culture. I think this is what it is. So the thing is, we were so much, not only physically, mentally, we were so, we were mamish sick inside. Inside we were sick. Everybody knows that matzah is called mamash michle de asvosa. Matzah is the michle de asvosa. The Zohar Kodesh calls michle de asvosa. It's the bread of healing. Mamash matzah. Matzah is not just a little bread. Mamash matzah heals the inside of us, right? Why is it, you know, Seder night, imagine going into this real French bakery, and I love the bread. how much bread can your stomach? Okay, you eat, but then enough. Matzah is something you can't stop eating matzah, right? And it's not because the matzah tastes so good. It tastes good, but mamish. You know, imagine you have a medication and the doctor says you need 100 drops. You take 5, but you know you need 100, right? Everybody inside knows how much matzah I need. How much matzah I need to cure myself. And again, you know, not that I'm an expert on diet, but really, friends, the Heiligen Adverner once saw someone eating matzah. He says, no, I'm on a diet. He says, brother, please, you know, keep your diet after Pesach. Pesach is not the time to think of diets, right? You know, imagine, God forbid, somebody has a heart attack and the doctor tells him to take a medication, but for this medication you gain weight. I say, listen, I'd rather die from a heart attack than gain weight. You know, I mean, really. Pesach is the time to get your inside sickness out, right? And you lose weight after Pesach. So eat matzah. I want you to know every mamish kazais of matzah counts in heaven. Mamish. It's not just a mitzvah to eat matzah. Every bit of matzah, mamish, purifies me and lifts me up. I mean, I don't think you should eat until you got to bed, have to sit somewhere else all day to get it out, you know. It's not being personal. But, you know, all the Rebbes, you know, all the big Rebbes who ate so little but matzah, you know, something else. What's the greatest sickness in the world? I mean, this is all stuff, who am I to say in front of Brother Josh? The greatest sickness in the world is when you think you're healthy. Gewalt, that's the end, right? What's the most sad thing for a Jew? We're going to think, I'm a good Jew. Why are you a good Jew, right? Because one time he went to Shul Yom Kippur and sent $10 to Israel. Why are you a good Jew, right? Okay, so listen to this. It says, this is the bread which we ate in Egypt, and then it's called dichva, and everybody who's hungry, come and eat. So obviously, we're not talking about being hungry physically. Or after you eat one piece of matzah, suddenly you become so hungry for something holy. So hungry. And you know what it is? And suddenly, when you're real hungry, suddenly you feel connected to the whole world. You know what it is? The people who are not hungry have no connection to the world. Now imagine the rich person who just paid $2,000 in a Chinese restaurant for him and his friends. I once saw this, Mamash, I saw someone walking down the street, and he never walks without $5,000 cash on him. He passed by one of our chaver and the homeless people. He takes out a quarter. What's his problem? He is not connected to this person. This person doesn't exist. To make a good impression, he walks with me, he wants to show he's a philanthropist, gives a quarter. But he has no personal connection to this person. Doesn't hurt him, right? Why doesn't it hurt him? Because he's dead inside, right? Sick like a dog, right? Imagine, God forbid, Chas v'Shalom never happened, if a person is so sick that he can stick a needle in his flesh and he doesn't feel it. He's dead, right? Chas v'Shalom. So while I was a slave in Egypt, I didn't feel anything. Oh. First of all, I didn't feel how much I need. And I also didn't have any feeling with somebody else. So the Heilige Alexander says, Mamash, when I came out from Egypt, it's called Dirch, and suddenly Mamash Shavila is how much I need. And then I also feel how much you need. So he says, anybody who needs anything, just come to my house. You know, real hungry people always relate to each other. You know, have you ever seen poor people, they have a piece of bread, they always give a little piece of bread to somebody else. Even if they have whiskey, they give a little sip to somebody else. And when you have everything, you don't share. Right? And not only that, you know, it's like, Want you to know something awesome without getting around the dead? What was in Auschwitz going on? They wanted that nobody should relate to another person. They wanted mamish, they wanted them to hate each other. Go out. And like, you know something, I think Elie Wiesel also writes about it. At the end, they brought in food, let's say there are 1,000 people, and they bring in food for 20 people, right? So everybody's falling upon it, right? So he says, Nebuch, he had a little of food in his hand, and his own father, who was very delirious from not eating for so many days, Mamish fell upon him and wanted to tear the food out of him, his own son. So he says to his father, it's me, you know, Eliezer. But didn't register anymore. You know, there was those zombies in Auschwitz too. Their brain wasn't working anymore. They were just hungry, you know, like animals. And they threw themselves at food, right? Heartbreaking. So, you see, in Egypt, when I'm a slave, I'm not inviting anybody anymore because I'm too delirious. Or should I eat my first piece of matzah? Coming on Mensch again. And here I'm giving you over Torah from my Holy Father, from my Seder, he said, Gewalt Torah. Because it says, Olachem Anya, this is the bread which we ate in Egypt. It should say, this is the bread which we ate when we got out of Egypt. And then it says, if you're hungry, come and eat. So my Seder said, Gewalt Torah. But that basically, you know, whose idea was this whole thing of matzah? The Egyptians had to feed their slaves because they wanted them to live, right? They worked for them. And they wanted to give them something which has absolutely no taste. They gave them water and flour, which basically, according to nature, has absolutely no taste. No sugar, no salt, nothing. It should taste terrible, right? And the great miracle happened that it tasted heavenly. Do you know something? Everything we bake, we eat, is in all over the world, right? Have you ever heard of a French matzah bakery? The only ones who can bake matzahs are Sweden, because basically it's a miracle. It's not normal that matzah helps. But here comes my Zedus Torah. Not we came out of Egypt and now I say if you're hungry, come and eat with me. While I was in Egypt, and while I was eating matzah, I tell my children, you know what level we were on? We were giving a piece of matzah to somebody else. You know, like really in Auschwitz, people were so hungry, and when they saw somebody else dying from hunger, they'd give from their own food. Right? So I tell my child, you know why God took us out of Egypt? Because even while we were slaves, we were only slaves on the outside, never on the inside. Anyway, I want you to know something. It's not enough just to, I'm supporting my child. I bought them a new car. I pay their college. How much are you connected? You know, it's heartbreaking. Look today at the world's so-called civilized world. They have no connection to their own children. Mamish, no connection. Nothing. So here I say, after I eat matzah, Mamish, my children feel so connected. Children are very sensitive. They know who loves you. They feel so connected that they begin asking me questions. They didn't ask me a question yesterday. Because, go out. Today, sadly enough, I'm talking to so many young people, ask them, if you have problems, would you go to your parents? I would say most probably not more than 10% would go to their parents. 50% would go to anybody on the street rather than to their parents. 40% in emergency would go to their parents. And 10% say, yes, my parents are my best friends. Very rare. But then, here comes back the Alexander time. You know, we all want something. And you know, my heart, my whole being is filled with wanting the wrong thing. Always want the wrong thing. See, the Alexander says, you know how much matzah purifies you? Kol dichvin. If always want the wrong thing, I'm jumping on the wrong side. Eat matzah. And matzah will purify you. And suddenly it will be clear to you what you really want. And here's the deepest Torah in the world. Imagine I'm crazy about bacon and lax. You know, I'm making it on a low level. How many bacon and lax can I eat? By the third bacon and lax, I'm already a little bit sick. By the sixth bacon and lax, I'm not going to touch bacon and lax for a week. By the 10th bacon and lax, I swear, that's it. I'll do anything. What's so special about matzah? The more you eat, the more you want to have matzah. You see what it is? Anything which is from the bad side, because evil has ends. And the more you eat, the closer you get to the end, they don't want any more. Matzah is holy bread, from heaven, right? And from heaven, the more I have, the more I want it. You know, why is it that we were talking about it? Take all the big scientists, although science is very holy too, but then they go on vacation. Where's Freddy? What happened? What? But there's no emergency. Okay, you know what? Do me a favor. I don't want to interrupt myself. If you can, mamish, in 10 minutes. And there's something even deeper. Okay, you know, matzah purifies all my wanting, my desires, you know, like suddenly I have a feeling, you know. Like, listen, when I was little, I thought I needed a lollipop, you know. Then you grow up, you want something else, right? A slave is somebody who doesn't grow up, you know, same thing. But here comes another Alexander Torah. You know, there is the details of us. I need a toothbrush, I need shoe shine, what else? I need a towel. It's all little details, right? Then there is something which all of me needs. The all of me, right? When I'm a slave, I'm taking care of all the details, but never of the all of me. Yeah. Why is it most people don't have their act together? They have a toothbrush, they have a towel, but the all of them is completely broken, right? So the heading sounds like, call the all of you. Call dichvin. If the all of you is never completely broken, completely dried out from hunger. Ah, yes, oh yeah. This is the night for you. But this is the night to fix the all of you. You know, again, sometimes you meet a Jew, maybe the details are not so Jewish, but the all of them is Jewish. And then the other way around, you meet somebody, the details are mamish from Gewalt, but the all of it is empty, right? Nothing, right? So say tonight, It's not so much the night of details. Seder night is the all of me. You know, it's so deep. You know, sometimes we meet people, they don't have their act together on a level of details, but their all is together, right? They have it, right? And then some people, they have everything, they come on time, and they have a good tie on, and their shoes are shined. But then when you talk to them, you realize the all of them is not there. You remember the Holy Ropshitzer Yom Kippur in Shul? He saw somebody knocking. He says, "Stop knocking, there's nobody home," you know? It's gewalt teure, you know?
Rabbi Shlomo,
Yeah?
do you think matzah is just for during Pesach or during the whole year?
Nancy, you're the highest woman in the world. You see what it is? How long are you going to a spa? For a few days, right? And then hopefully it lasts for a year, and next year come back. You see, Pesach is the 1 week, the holy spa. The Zohar Kodesh says, after we were slaves for 10 years, the Rabbi Shlomo says, come to my little spa for 1 week. How much does Zohar Kodesh says? So Pesach is mamish, God gives us special medication and special food and special mamish, special everything, and then we're healed. Hopefully it'll keep us going for a year. And obviously next year we need it again. You know, then maybe every year we realize how much more we need it. We didn't know how much we needed it last year, but twice this year, gewalt. Yeah.
What is also called the bread of the moon? How does that taste?
Yeah. Amish, then you're in good form. What did you have for breakfast, brother? You know what it is? You know, we all believe in God. You know, the Gemara says something awesome. What does a thief do before he steals? He's praying hard, Master of the world, make sure I'm not caught, right? The Gemara says something awesome, even a murder. He's really off, right? And before he pulls the trigger, he says, this is the last time I'm doing it, but this time please, you know, really, gotta help me. But the question is, if you believe in God, why are you doing it? So the answer is that his believing in God just surrounds him, but it's not inside. It's not inside. I think I shared with you my cousin of my grandfather was a woman, a therapist in those days, and her thing was not to hit children. I told you, and she was giving up. They go, Mama Zayda was so take for her, go out. What a holy woman. My father was never 5 years old, and older brother sent there for Shabbos. My father says he never seen anybody giving out patch to his kids the whole time. So she has good ideas, right? But it's nothing to do with her, right? You see, on Pesach when they eat matzah, matzah helps in mamish to get my believing God inside, right?
So we flew out of Egypt. So wasn't there a Luna at its highest?
Yeah, but you know, this is, you know, believing in God is endless, right? You know, the Baal Shem Tov was on the level that he could put a handkerchief on the river and go over to the other side. And you know why I can't do it? Because I'm so conditioned that when I put my foot in the water, I drown. But the Baal Shem Tov was clear, only drown if God wants me to drown. If God wants me to get to the other side, you go to the other side, right? You know, all the tzaddikim who performed all the greatest miracles was not a trick, was clear to them. Remember, the Gemara says, you think only, okay, I'll tell you a good story. You know, the Heilige Ropshitzer had like a gabber, you know, like his little servant. He took somebody who's a little bit behind, Nebuch, a little bit retarded. So then he wouldn't tell people what he sees. You know, the Heilige Ropshitzer every night was up all night learning the whole thing. He didn't want anybody to know. So he took somebody who was not completely there. So after the Holy Robshitzer left the world, the Chassidim say to this Shamus, tell us something about the Robshitzer. He says, I don't know why you make such a big tumult. He was an ordinary person like you and me. He says, it can't be. Didn't you ever see anything ordinary? He begins laughing. I remember one crazy thing. He says, one time we went to the mikveh, and I was supposed to have a candle. There was no electric light, and the Rebbe was in the mikveh. Suddenly I say, Rebbe, the candle comes to an end. So the Rebbe says, take a piece of ice and put some fire on top of it. You see, I told you something crazy, I remember, right? Can you imagine? The Rebbe no.
An icicle.
No, it said the candle went out. It says take ice, and on top is a little bit sticking out, put some fire on top and it will burn, right? Whatever it is. You see, I told you a crazy thing I remember. How did he do that? Because clear to him, where does it say in the Torah ice can burn, right? If God wants it, anything in the world, right? You know what it is like also between people, We are putting limits on everyone, right? Limits all the time, right? Imagine we would be big enough not to put limits on people. Where people would be. The world hasn't so advanced so much yet, but imagine one day that somebody will be on the level, like you're always telling our children, this you can do, this you can't do. For this you're talented, for this you're not. Did I tell you one of my deepest experience? One night I checked into a hotel and this woman at the desk is crying. Very beautiful. So I asked her, why are you crying? Obviously she trusted me. She says, I'm 27 years old and tomorrow is my 9th divorce. 9th divorce. I said to her, did your mother ever tell you beautiful you are? She was very beautiful. She says, my mother would always tell me, I'm so ugly that no man will ever want me. See, Mama's got into her bones, right? Then she says, whenever I did something wrong, my mother would take soap water, put it in my mouth and lock me in a closet for 3 hours. See what it is, say tonight, the first thing I realized, maybe I put my children into slavery. So after Holachma Anya, the first thing I say, Mamash, children, I let you out of slavery. You're infinite, you can do anything. I'm sure you know more than I do, just ask me anything in the world, right? And you remember, I don't really answer the Manishtan. I don't know the answer. I don't know what God took us into exile. I don't know what God is doing in Israel. I don't have any idea. The only thing is, I tell my children, wait till is coming, he'll answer all the questions. One thing I can promise you.
It's not only the children, it's the women too. The women, always putting limits on the women, what the women can do, they can't do this, they can't do that.
That's true.
So, and the reason we got out of Egypt the first time, because maybe when all the men were slaves, and the women had to do it, and they did it.
It's a good Torah, brother. But right now, I think our Chava are already on the level. We're not putting limits to anybody. Your Torah is good for the world. Gotta go. Are you going there? I'll be there in 5 minutes. Good. Moshe Avraham is the cutest brother. Moshe Avraham sponsored the whole book, It's Mamash Moshe Avraham's book. Oh, thank you. Hey, Moshe Avom, I have to tell you a cute story. You want to hear it? You know, this songbook, we never know who will get it, right?
Say that again?
The songbook, who knows who will buy it, right? At the end of the world, right? Might be a Yidale from Iowa City. I have to tell you a cute story. One of our friends was in Iowa City, and there's only one Reform synagogue. He went there to daven, and then the president invited him for lunch. And the president has a little dog, and he calls him Schleimele. Schleimele here, Schleimele there. The whole time he calls him. So he says to him, this is a little bit crazy. He says, why do you call your dog Schleimele? So he says, let me tell you, I'm a Reform Jew. I hate Orthodox Jews. Well, there's one Orthodox Jew I like, that's Shlomo Carlebach. So I call my dog. You know, maybe one Yidel will like me and after the songbook. Yeah?
I understand. Is that the, you said once said there were 4 types of questions.
Yeah.
But the question that can't be asked and has no answer, has no answer, is that right?
Yeah, this is touching the deepest. Basically, the whole Manishtana is questions which have no answer, you're not permitted to ask.
Except if you're a child.
Yeah, you see, it's not that you're not permitted, because the way you ask is already bad, right? But children know how to ask. That means on Seder night, I'm so close to God that I can ask. Let's put it on the extreme bad. When the policeman asks me, what's your name? How close does he feel to me? I mean, on the country, he makes 2 billion walls with me, and I never get too close, right? Basically, a question is to knock you down. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes the question is, right? I meet this girl and ask her, I love her so much, what's your name, right? It's not like a policeman asks me, what's your name, right? About something else, right? And you see, these questions, which you're not permitted to ask, you can only ask them like a child. You can't. There's no other way, right? And also, there's no answer. The Mashiach is coming. And you know, when Mashiach is coming, it's not there's an answer. When Mashiach is coming, realize there was no question. You know, there is, everybody knows there's some serial kasha, right? So kasha in Yiddish, in Hebrew, means a question, right? So when the Socher was 4 years old, he was a big genius, so they were eating kasha. So his father says, so, do you have an answer for this kasha? So he says, his father, wait. He finished the kasha. He says, you see, that there is no more kasha. No, Socher. What I tell you, another sharp cookie, you know, the Heilige Rebbe Heschel, he was the rabbi in Krakow in the 16th century. He was like the biggest genius in the world. So anyway, he stole the Afikoman, and then he gave it back to his father. You know, he asked for something, and let's say he asked for 1,000 rubles, and his father says, okay. But then, you know, the Valbos, the owner of the house, gives everybody a little piece. When it comes to give to a Heschel, he says to him, I won't give you unless you how do you say that? What?
Return the 15.
Go back, forgive me for everything I promised you. So, and he was also 4 or 5. He says, Father, you think I'm stupid? I kept the piece for myself before, you know. He was the sharpest. You know, on Rosh Hashanah, you're not supposed to eat before blowing of the shofar. And the Gemara says when we blow the shofar, then brother Satan gets so shook up he runs away. He's afraid to open his mouth against us. It's not so simple, right? So his father comes in early in the morning and he's eating there. His father says, "Don't you know you're not supposed to eat before you blow the shofar?" It's sure I know this, but believe me, he says, when brother Satan sees me eating and he knows that you're not permitted to eat, then he thinks they're blue already and he runs off. Oi. And one more thing, like you know what we need the most? There's something wanting and longing and to put all of me together. Then there's something else. Kol ditzrich. When you need something. Yetzer Yifsach, let him come and jump. And this is so deep, Yifsach, everybody knows that Pesach is the fixing of the mouth. Pesach. My mouth is talking. You know what this? God gave us a mouth. God gave us the power of unbelievable communication. I can communicate with people, and I can communicate with God. It's so deep. Sometimes a person talks to you, you hear the words, but they don't communicate, right? It's so deep. And sometimes one person says one word and go out, right? And I'm sure you know that enough to tell you. If I lie and I say bad things all the time, my mouth is so full of evil, I cannot communicate, right? Sometimes you hear this person give the big speech. Nothing, right? All those politicians give big speeches and it's nothing, right? It's no communication because their mouth, they have no words in their mouth, right? So he says, Kol ditzrich, if you need something, Yetzer Yifsach, tonight is the time to open your mouth. That means tonight is not only the fixing, it's a fixing of speech, mamish like. Each time, mamish God should have compassion, each time we lie, each time we say bad things about each other, it's not only we did wrong, it is that it mamish affects our mouth. Oi. I'm sorry, what? Mamish kirch to you. Anyway, I just want to tell you, Pesach night is, we always think redemption is from. Redemption is not from. That's the first step. Redemption is to become a whole human being again. Like to put myself in the right space, in the right place. And a normal human being is to have a heart of flesh, not of stone. I want you to know something. Seder night, we went out of Egypt because of Abraham. What's the first thing Abraham did after he entered the covenant with God? He invited the 3 pagans. So Seder night, when I entered the covenant with God, the first thing is I'm inviting the whole world. Kol dichron, right? And one more very important thing. What is the deepest slavery? The deepest slavery, if I think, is see this for the second time, or hear this for the second time. The truth is, we hear everything for the first time, right? Imagine I would have never seen a poor person in my life. For the first time I see a poor person, I'd run up. I'd run up and say, please come to my house, I'm so broken. I didn't even know there are poor people in the world, right? But we are so immune because we always see people. Seder night, when I came out of slavery, suddenly I see Puma, I said, please come to my house. You see, Abraham was so strong and inviting poor people. You know, Avraham Avinu is the morning. That means Avraham Avinu saw everything for the first time. Avraham Avinu was no second time. It's Avraham Avinu. Shabbos Kikyont. Thank you so much.
There's some music.
Yeah.
I mean, were you talking about the...
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
It's only one part. It's not only from.
No, from.
It's deeper than that. I'm ready for the highest.
From by religion. Observing from? Is that right?
No, I'm not from looking for fear of
From.
We're being
from
redeemed
this.
for
Yeah, it is
something else.
the first part. I'm redeemed. I'm a different human being now.
Any interesting special storm you've read recently that you recommend?
What?
Any special storm you've seen recently that you recommend?
I haven't been in a bookstore in a while. That's okay. We will see something okay.
Anything special? So you're going to the bookstore?
Crust. Crust. That was the word we had wrong. It wasn't the outside, it was the crust. That's the word. For the outside. The word crust. That's the word.
No, he said it.
That's a better word than the outside of the risen. Because that's the difference. And then the matzah is all crust. It's all one thing. That's right, there's no separation. What? Rabbi, the word we had, I think the word we were searching for is crust.
I'm sorry, what?
The word we were searching for is the crusted bread. That's because the matzah is all one piece. It's all crust. There's no inside and outside. It's the same all the way through. Right? Because when we're talking about the risen, it's not the leaven, it's the result of the leaven, which is you get a crust. That's what you want to get rid of when you're saying the chometz. You want to get rid of the crust.
Samech Aleph. You have to ask him to check it. And ask him to check it.
Thank you.
It's the bread of healing. It's
not so good.
All right. It turns out I'm going to follow you.
Barbara, you gonna tell me, Barbara? Kiddush coffee.
Okay, you. Mich, Rabbi.
Jedes Mal, Alter.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
I wish. Comes out to 105.20 seconds.
Wait, just a minute, the book. In the background?
Yeah.
There you go.
Signature again, second, please.
Anyway, Moshe seems to be. Well, this will be here for an hour, then we go.
Anybody who want to read Rabbi Carlebach, a new book, a new song book, Rabbi Carlebach?
What?
Bring him my hands, is it?
Finish it.
Finish?
Liegen ze hem? Next, please. Shlomo.
Ja.
Did you make the did you make the
Heilige
Heilige Rebbe, was machst du das?
This you give me.
No, no, no.
I'm going back to work.
Michael. Oh.
Proof I was here.
Hey, brother.
Are you signing here too?
Carlos, someone's waiting for you over here.
What's your name?
I'm Jill.
What do you do?
I'm
Don't get us
kind of-
started. It's being sweet.
Oh, thank you. I'm sort of looking for a job now. I'm unemployed.
God is unemployed too, I think. What do you do? Also unemployed.
No, I'm not unemployed. I have somebody else to make sense. She's not my wife.
What do you do?
I'm a stockbroker.
Breaking in or breaking out? Breaking in. Here, give you my card. Where do you live? In this neighborhood?
Forest Hills.
On Forest Hills.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Always say, come to my shoot sometime. Come Friday night sometimes.
It's on 7th.
79. What's the question? 79th and what?
Where's that?
Oh, okay. I went to graduate school at Columbia, so I'm very familiar with the area. Well, thank you for the explanation.
Good job, dear.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
too.
All the best to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Go ahead.
I want to get in the way.
No, you could pass by. Don't worry about it.
See you next week in LA.
Yeah, good. You have the address in LA where to
I know, I'll call here because I don't have the address.
Give it to you right now.
Oh, you got it? Yeah, great.
Who's this great man? What do you do?
He's holding right, he's up to Pesach already. He's buying it,
Yeah.
Carter, yeah.
For a wedding.
Who's getting married?
No, give us soap cover and ask what
Can we take our toys?
My sister or my sister-in-law. No, it is. Tell them that the office is open in Shul every day from 10 to 5. In Shul, yeah, you can leave it there any time. Tomorrow or Tuesday. 305 West 79. 580-2391. See, when he calls and the machine is on, that means there's nobody there. Yeah. So when he comes, yeah. Yeah. Whoever is there, just leave me an envelope.
Your money, somebody else's money. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Carlebach is here. He's leaving right now. autograph his new songbook. After me before he leaves.
Pick it up, that's it. So hold it up.
Watch out, that's right.
Thank you, friend. I'll young to see it's okay.
Thank you.
Hold it. Yitzhak knows where the Moshe is sing about. I shared with you a little bit, like when my brother and I were in Lakewood at a certain point, and in Lakewood the Bochum get paid every week $10 a day. Not so much, but in those days it was $10. It's $40 a month. You know what you can do with $40. So my brother and I were always buying Swan. At the end, we owed so much money that we couldn't go on the east side anymore because we were afraid that. I think for about 10 years we didn't go on the east side, my brother, because we owed so much money. But who cared? We paid off eventually. But anyway, so Bigel Eisen would send us the list of Swarm he has. And 45, 46, the most unbelievable thing happened. That shipments came from Europe, never to Swarm. People went to Poland and just collected Swarm. Books left over in this rubbish and sold them to book dealers, and they would sell it. So suddenly, we get from Bigeleisen that there's a Sefer Meha Shiloach from the Heilige Ishbitze, and I don't know why we bought it. You know how much it was at that time? $100. There were only 3 or 4 left in the world. 3 or 4 left in the world. And I didn't know what it is. And at then I really didn't know anything. I still don't know, but then even less. So I bought it. And Big Guy was good. He knew I don't have $100, but he sold it to me, and eventually paid up. I look at the Sefer. Mamish is beyond me. My brother looks at the Sefer. It's beyond us. So we wanted to send it back. We couldn't. My hand would move. So from time to time I would come to visit my father, so that's what's going on. He said, we bought this Sefer Meir Shiloach, and so we should send it back, but just we can't. My father says, I guess you forgot that our Elter Zayne was a chassid of the Meir Shiloach. Our Elter Zayne, I can figure it out exactly. He left Ishbitze in the year 1840. And I think I told you, no, he had Mamash had nothing to eat. As simple as it is. And like in Israel, they think everybody in America is rich. And the same way, in those days in Poland, they thought every Jew in Germany is rich. So you heard they're looking for a rabbi in the ghetto, at that time was still in ghettos, in Moisling, it's outside Lübeck. So he said, I want to become the rabbi. So they might like, why not? But how do you get from Ishbitzer to Lübeck? You need a wagon and a horse. A wagon he got. A horse costs a lot of money. So he went to the Besmedrash and he told them, I'm going to Germany. And in Germany everybody's rich. So the moment they get there, I have all the money in the world, and I send you back the money for the horse. And I want you to know, my father had the license. I don't know, someone stole it, that's my father. The license, a Jew needed special license to have a horse. And it says, the Jude, what was his name? Ephraim Fischl Joel, you know, they're Eniklach of the Bach, and they call themselves a family named Joel after the Henige Bach. They was called Joel. Anyway, it says the Jude Ephraim Fischl has a right to have a horse. Never, he arrived in Germany, never, he realized they're even more poor than in Poland. And he barely had enough money to eat, but who talks about sending money for the horse? And my father still had the card. His father writes him a letter. I want you to know that during the week I cannot go to the Besmedrash because they asked me where's the money for the horse. So I go on Shabbos. But the way they say good Shabbos on Shabbos, I hear they're talking about the horse. Anyway, so I mean, everybody who remembers my brother, we were mamish crazy about Ishbitz. And I want you also to know that the Rebbe Shtebbe Refuah Shneimah, with his father-in-law, the Friedrich Rebbe, he said that he has two friends in this world. I mean, to be a friend of a Rebbe, you got to be something special. One was the Heilige Rabbzine, ich would say, you know, the Tiferes Yosef, and the other one was the Munkelchen, Minchas Elozeh. And by the present Rebbe Zoltan Gesund, Rebbe's wedding, the Munkelchen couldn't come, and a lot of Rebbes, but somehow the Tiferes Yosef, he was sitting next to the Rebbe, and I heard from people who were there that he and the Rebbe were dancing the whole time. The Rebbe, the Friedrich and the Tiferes Yosef. Obviously, a very deep connection. You know, Ishbitz is so deep. Anyway, I just want to share with you a fast Torah. Sad enough, I don't understand it, but it doesn't matter, just a little bit. Okay, on Yom Tov, when you come to Beis HaMikdash, it says, Ish kematnas yodoi. Everybody like as much as you want to give. Keverket Hashem and like the way God blessed you. And this is the deepest. I'm sure it's clear to you. Can you imagine a person who is stingy, learning Torah and understanding what the Torah says? You know what a stingy person is? Completely locked out, right? No. You see, the words of the Torah open themselves up to you as much as you are open to give them. So he says the deepest Torah in the world. You know what it is to be in exile? An exile is that I don't want to give to others. Holding back. Why are we hidden not one? What's holding us back? Because we are holding on even to our Yiddishkeit, to our Torah. We are holding on to it, we're not giving it up. You know, imagine if all the Yidden, mamish, everybody would mamish shine out what he has, right? One Yid has Torah, one Yid has the, you know, the Slugman, right? One Yid crafts like a Yid, you know, and the other one mamish. What do we know, right? Imagine if all the Yidden would get together and all the Yidden would receive one from the other. There'll be so much love in the world. So much love. So he says, listen to this. He says, as much as you are ready to give, this is how much the letters of the Torah open themselves up to you and give you over there. You know, obviously, the words of the Torah, you can learn them and know them, but you're far from it. Far from it. You know, mamish, every word of the Torah, every letter of the Torah, is mamish has so much to give to us. Now listen to this unbelievable thing. He says, do you know how much one piece of bread has life in it? One piece of bread has so much life in it, that could cure us from every sickness in the world. Mamish. Where's Holy Josh? Where's Josh? Josh is still here? Oh, Josh. Where's Josh? Okay, wherever he is. I'll tell him the Torah. Holy Josh, I'm saying just the Torah in your honor, Josh. Holy Josh, we need you better. Because I know you want to do something for the world. You know, the Ishmael says, the Ishmael says that one piece of bread has so much life in it, could cure you from every sickness in the world. Why is it, let's say, the Rebbes would give out shirayim, right? The Rebbes would give out a piece of challah and cure people. Why could they cure with one piece of challah? Because basically, the challah has unbelievable life in it. It's only when I eat it, and I'm so small and I'm so stingy. And you know, the bread gives to me as much as I'm ready to give, right? So if I give you a piece of bread, you taste a little rye bread. You don't have to be Jewish to like rye bread. The law is part of the bread. But the tzaddikim, when they give you a mamish piece of bread, because you know how does the Rebbes live on the heilige the Triske Magid lived on mamish gedais a day. How did he live, right? Because why not? He was mamish. For him, the bread gave him so much life, because he was ready to give life. So he says, which is so deep, that on Pesach, what God is opening inside of us, mamish, you know what means free? Not free to keep, free to give. I'm ready, mamish, to give over every divotor. And then he says, because we are, mamish, opening up, therefore also nature opens up. The earth opens up and the trees open up. Mamish, everything comes up. Unbelievable. You see, I'm sure it's clear to you. The Ishmael says it 1,000 times. It's not because in springtime nature opens up and therefore we got out of Egypt. On the contrary. Because this is the time when we heathen open up. And even before we came out of Egypt, we wanted to put it into the world. I'll give you the word. Sheshayre shagolus ve'ike hashivatu machmas kamson. Wow. Exile means that I'm a comes. But I don't want to keep stingy. I don't want to get out. You know, it's unbelievable, right? Imagine if, so to speak, if we from a Yidden would give out everything we have. And you know, it's crazy. Every Yid has something. Right? The most low, the most far Yid from the world have so much holiness, so much kedusha, right? And we won't get it because we're all holding back. So he says on Pesach, what's Avraham Avinu? What's his thing? There was nobody ever want to give out so much godliness. Not much like Avraham Avinu. Before Avraham Avinu were also big tzaddikim for themselves. Yeah, they're ready to give a lecture about God, right? Mamish, you out. How do you say that wrong? And Avraham Avinu enters the covenant with God. What's the first time? Let's say he put on 4 pair of tefillin now. Mamish, he wants to give so much he can't stop. So he says that Mamish on Pesach, you know what the deepest thing is? That also reaches us, Mamish, want to bless you and me. We're even holding back from our own children. Yeah, we give them a little bit Yiddishkeit and education. How much you want to give to them? How much are you ready? So the deepest thing is say the night, Mamish. First of all, I opened the door and I said, are you hungry? Do you need anything? Are you heartbroken? Are you sad? Mamish, come to my house. I want to give you everything. Give you everything. Suddenly my children look at me and they realize, hey, the parents are not stingy anymore. So they asked the parents, can you shine into me what Pesach is all about? And they're asking us how long will the exile last? Because they know that the exile is only because you're so stingy. And you know, it's just unbelievable. And here I want to go something. The deepest Torah in the world is, it's a little bit Ishbitze and a little bit in the Heilige Vision that's from the Schor, so I'm mixing it up with. Okay, Cain and Heva, right? Shabbos. Watch. Was this to God or to God?
Straight to you.
Fall back. There was a letter in the post office in Yerushalayim. To God, care of Holy War. And the postman, Aziza Yid, Mama, she took the letter personally, put it in the Holy War. One second. If you give me your attention just for one more second. Where was I now? Cain Hevel. Okay, Hevel must have done something wrong also. You know, I don't want to go into the whole thing of Cain Hevel. You know, the Rabbi Shlomo spoke to Cain, right? And it's clear in the Medrash, Cain didn't want to kill his brother. He just hit him over the head because they didn't even know people are dying. But anyway, what was wrong with Hevel? What was wrong with Hevel? He sees his brother wants to bring a korban. It was Cain's idea, the whole thing of the korban. Cain wanted to bring a korban, but he didn't know how to do it. And Hevel picked it up and he knew how to do it. The deepest question in the world is, why didn't you go over to your brother and tell, hey brother, let me teach you. You're holding back. You're counseling. Do you think God needs only you? You know, the deepest thing is like, Seder night, you know, Seder night, Imam is becoming Service Hashem, God's soldiers. You know, it's not fair, you know, really. Just a few minutes, they could be quiet. It's also stinginess, you know? Yeah, the Teufel is here, yeah. Where does it say? Where? Mit allem?